Somewhere right now, a billionaire is spending more money on something completely useless than most people will earn in their entire lives. And that's not even close to the dumbest purchase on this list. These are 101 of the most ridiculous, brain-melting ways the ultra-rich have wasted their fortunes. Every single one is real. 1. Somebody paid $12 million for a dead shark in a glass tank full of formaldehyde. The shark started rotting. The buyer had to shell out even more to get a whole new shark installed. This man is running a subscription service to a decomposing fish and calling it culture. $12 million and the thing still couldn't stay fresh. 2. A paranoid Russian oligarch spent over $1 billion on a yacht with missile defense systems, anti-paparazzi laser shields, and a personal submarine parked inside it. Lasers, to block photographers. $1 billion because this man could not physically bring himself to just wear a baseball cap and walk fast like a normal celebrity. 3. A bored mining magnate in Australia announced he was building a full-size replica of the Titanic, called it Titanic 2. Promised it would sail in 2016, then 2018, then 2022. Still does not exist. The original smashed into an iceberg at full speed and still had a more successful launch than this project. 4. There's a family of 6 in India living in a 27-story personal skyscraper that requires 600 full-time staff to operate. That's 100 employees per family member. One of them probably has a guy whose entire job is just holding the elevator door. Meanwhile, a dude in Brooklyn has been waiting 3 months for his landlord to fix a toilet. 5. Imagine you're sitting in economy class fighting a barefoot stranger for the armrest, and you glance toward first class and see a falcon. Then another falcon. Then 78 more falcons. A Saudi royal once booked 80 seats on a commercial flight for his birds. Each one had its own ticket. Each one flew better than you that day. 6. A gold-obsessed millionaire in India commissioned a shirt made entirely of solid gold. Weighed over 7 pounds. Cost about $250,000. He wore it out in public. Just walked around town looking like a human Grammy Award with a pulse and zero self-awareness. 7. Multiple billionaires spent millions buying cartoon monkey JPEGs during the NFT craze. One celebrity dropped $1.3 million on a single Bored Ape that's now worth less than a decent used car. You could have bought a real monkey, rented it an apartment, set up a college fund for it, and still come out ahead. 8. A hedge fund titan paid $238 million for a New York penthouse he barely even visits. It mostly just sits there, empty, holding air. $238 million for what is essentially the world's most expensive screensaver. His cleaning lady dusts furniture that nobody touches, in rooms where nobody breathes. 9. Picture this. You survive an asteroid. You lie underground for 67 million years. And then some hedge fund guy in designer loafers buys your skeleton for $31.8 million and props you up next to his grand piano. That's what happened to a T-Rex named Stan. The most disrespectful thing to happen to a dinosaur since the actual extinction. 10. The Sultan of Brunei owns roughly 7,000 cars. 500 are Rolls-Royces. Most of them sit in warehouses slowly dying because one man cannot physically drive 7,000 vehicles no matter how committed he is. Some haven't been started in decades. This is not a hobby. This is a condition that needs a name and a support group. 11. A tech billionaire bought a social media platform for $44 billion. Fired most of the staff, renamed the whole thing, scared off the advertisers, and watched its value collapse in real time. $44 billion. That's not a business deal. That's a guy buying the world's most expensive toy, ripping it open, breaking it, and then blaming the instructions. 12. Some mega-rich dude in Texas hollowed out a mountain to install a clock designed to tick for 10,000 years. Cost him $42 million. Humanity can't keep a houseplant alive past February, but sure, let's build a 10-millennium timepiece inside a rock that nobody will ever visit or care about. 13. Mike Tyson blew 70 grand each on 3 Bengal tigers because owning a normal pet was apparently too boring for a man who once bit someone's ear off. The tigers cost him $200,000 a year. One of them ripped somebody's arm clean off. Absolutely no one was surprised except, somehow, Mike Tyson. 14. One tech bro with a god complex launched his actual personal sports car into deep space on a rocket. It's currently orbiting the sun with a mannequin in a spacesuit behind the wheel. That car has been on the longest road trip in the history of the universe, and nobody knows how to bring it back. Or wants to. 15. A Saudi prince turned an Airbus A380 into a flying palace with a concert hall, a Turkish bath, and a garage holding a Rolls-Royce. A bath and a garage on a plane at 40,000 feet. Because landing first and showering at your destination like a regular mammal was apparently just too common. 16. A very rich man bought over 1,400 acres in Hawaii, including land from local families who made it extremely clear they didn't want to sell. Then he built a compound with an underground bunker. The guy made his fortune connecting people online and is now literally hiding from them underground. The irony is so thick, you could build a bunker out of it. 17. There's a billionaire who hired a personal hairdresser and flew them across the world on a private jet every single time he needed a trim. We're talking tens of thousands of dollars per haircut. Most people go to a barber down the street and still complain about paying $40. This man treats a haircut like an international diplomatic summit. 18. A Japanese billionaire paid over $100 million for a single painting, then publicly announced he wanted to be cremated with it when he dies. $100 million in art, and his retirement plan for it is fire. The artist is already dead, so at least they won't have to watch. 19. There's a company that sells high-end ice harvested from Arctic glaciers for luxury cocktails. We're talking chunks of 10,000-year-old ice dropped into whiskey at billionaire parties. Woolly mammoths were still walking the earth when this ice formed. And now it's dissolving in some guy's bourbon at a rooftop bar in Manhattan. 10 millennia of survival, gone in one cocktail. 20. A tech billionaire bought the entire island of Lanai in Hawaii for around $600 million. The whole island. One grocery store. About 3,000 residents who woke up one morning with a new landlord they didn't vote for. Imagine getting a rent increase notice from a man who could buy another island if you complain too loud. 21. A Russian billionaire paid $100 million for a mansion in Palm Beach, then found out it was full of mold. Tore the whole thing down. $100 million for dirt. Sandy, expensive, useless dirt. Real estate is just a group hallucination with paperwork. 22. A group of Silicon Valley executives pooled together and spent $3 million building a private wellness retreat in the desert that turned out to be a concrete bunker with no air conditioning. $3 million for a glorified sweat lodge that nobody used past the first weekend. It now sits empty in the Nevada heat, slowly becoming exactly the kind of ruin that future archaeologists will be very confused by. 23. Barbra Streisand cloned her dead dog. Twice. Paid $50,000 to duplicate her beloved pet. Got two puppies that looked identical but had completely different personalities. $50,000 to scientifically prove that you cannot Xerox a soul. 24. A Chinese businessman dropped $1.9 million on a Tibetan Mastiff puppy. Nearly $2 million for a dog that eats high-end beef and sleeps in a climate-controlled bedroom. That dog's monthly food budget could feed a neighborhood, and it still drinks from the toilet. 25. A billionaire commissioned a portrait of his family made entirely out of their own DNA. Scientists extracted genetic material and turned it into art. Cost around $500,000. He paid $500,000 to hang his family's spit on the wall and call it a masterpiece. 26. Nicolas Cage once outbid Leonardo DiCaprio for a 67-million-year-old dinosaur skull. Paid $276,000 for it. Turned out it was stolen from Mongolia, and he had to give it back. $250,000 to temporarily babysit a fossil with a criminal record. 27. A wealthy tech mogul paid $200,000 to have his head frozen when he dies. Just the head. He believes scientists will wake him up in the future. He paid a fortune to become a very expensive popsicle with absolutely no guarantee anyone will ever find the defrost setting. 28. A real estate mogul merged 3 New York townhouses into one mega mansion, then installed a swimming pool in the living room. The humidity destroyed his art collection. He built a swamp in his own home and was genuinely surprised when it acted like one. 29. A crypto bro paid 650,000 real dollars for a digital yacht in the metaverse. A boat that does not float. You cannot sail it. You cannot feel the wind. You can only stare at pixels shaped like a boat in a game most people have already forgotten exists. 30. A billionaire installed a $250,000 aquarium beneath the glass floor of his living room. Sharks underneath. You walk over them. Guests sip champagne while predators circle directly below their feet. One structural crack and you're not hosting a dinner party anymore. You're filming a survival show. $250,000 to turn your home into a liability waiver. 31. A billionaire commissioned a life-size wax figure of himself for $500,000 and placed it at his own dining table. When he travels, the figure sits in his chair so his family doesn't feel his absence. $500,000, so a lump of wax can emotionally replace a living human being. And apparently it does the job just fine. 32. A businessman in Abu Dhabi paid $14 million at auction for a license plate. The number on it was just the digit 1. That's it. $14 million for a single number stamped onto a rectangle of metal. The plate costs more than most of the cars it could ever be bolted to. Somewhere, a DMV employee saw this headline and stared at a wall for an hour. 33. A Russian tycoon paid $75,000 for a single truffle. Invited friends over for a big truffle dinner. The truffle rotted before the chef could use it. 75 grand for a mushroom that decomposed because its owner wanted to show it off first. Vanity killed the fungus. 34. A wealthy family in Florida built a replica of the Palace of Versailles. It has 11 kitchens. 11. Unless you're running a culinary academy or feeding a battalion, nobody needs 11 places to make a sandwich. Half those ovens have never seen a frozen pizza. 35. A billionaire spent $60 million building an underground nightclub beneath his mansion. It fits 200 people. He uses it maybe twice a year. The rest of the time it just sits there in the dark, waiting, like the world's most expensive empty basement with a disco ball. 36. An heiress bought a gold-plated vacuum cleaner for $1 million. It works, technically, but it's heavy, impractical, and scratches everything. You have to clean the thing you clean with. It creates more problems than it solves. A Dyson is right there. 37. A billionaire couple spent $2 million on a wedding for their cats. The cats wore custom outfits. There was catering, a guest list, a reception. Neither cat understood what marriage is. Neither cat cared. $2 million for a ceremony between two beings who would rather chase a laser pointer. 38. A hedge fund manager paid $110,000 for a bottle of wine supposedly owned by Thomas Jefferson. He dropped it at the party. It shattered. Didn't even taste it. Just mopped up the most expensive puddle in recorded history and presumably never spoke of it again. 39. Someone commissioned a gold toilet. Fully functional. It was displayed in a museum in England. Then it got stolen. Gone. Vanished in the night. Somewhere on this planet, a person is sitting on a stolen gold toilet in complete silence, living their absolute best life. 40. A tech billionaire built a compound in New Zealand designed to survive the apocalypse. Food supplies, medical gear, luxury quarters. So when civilization ends, his plan is to ride it out in extreme comfort on the other side of the earth while the rest of us just deal with it normally. 41. A billionaire in India threw a wedding for his daughter that reportedly cost over $100 million. Beyoncé performed. The event lasted a full week. $100 million for a party. Most weddings have a cousin with a Spotify playlist, and honestly, those are usually more fun. 42. Somebody paid $450 million for a painting called Salvator Mundi, supposedly by Leonardo da Vinci. Art experts still argue about whether Leonardo even painted the whole thing. There's a real chance somebody dropped nearly $500 million on history's most expensive group project. 43. A Wall Street billionaire reportedly spent $500,000 a year on fresh flowers for his homes. Cut flowers. Things that are already dying the moment you buy them. $500 grand annually on plants with a 1-week lifespan. Even the shark guy got more shelf life out of his purchase. 44. A Saudi prince had a Boeing 747 converted into a private jet with a throne room inside, a literal throne, at cruising altitude. He sits on a golden chair in the sky while normal humans recline 2 inches in economy and call it comfort. That's a different species of entitlement. 45. A tech billionaire spends millions a year employing over 30 doctors, nutritionists, and trainers trying to reverse his own aging. Tracks every organ daily. Eats the same optimized meals. All that money and technology just to look like a guy who gets 8 hours of sleep and drinks enough water. 46. A wealthy investor paid $2.3 million for a single tuna fish at a Tokyo auction. A fish. Over $2 million. He could have bought a boat, hired a crew, and caught unlimited tuna for the rest of his life. But no. He wanted that specific dead fish and he wanted everyone to know it. 47. A billionaire paid $28 million for a single parking spot in Hong Kong. A flat rectangle of concrete. You put a car on it. The parking spot costs more than the vehicles most people will ever own. That slab of ground earns more per square foot than a surgeon. 48. A billionaire vodka tycoon created a bottle worth $1.3 million. Made of gold and silver with a diamond cap. It got stolen from a bar in Copenhagen. Police found it later at a construction site. Empty. The thief drank the vodka and threw away the $1 million bottle. That is the ultimate disrespect. 49. There's a service that flies a private chef to a mountaintop by helicopter to cook dinner for billionaires at 14,000 feet. 50 grand a plate. The steak doesn't taste different at altitude. Your taste buds don't improve with elevation. You're just cold, rich, and overpaying for beef. 50. A billionaire paid $10 million to have a new species of monkey named after him. A monkey. Now there is a primate in the jungle throwing its own waste around with this man's last name attached to it forever. That is a questionable legacy carved into the tree of life. 51. An oil billionaire built a replica of the Oval Office inside his Texas ranch. Same desk, same carpet, same curtains. He holds actual meetings in there. Grown adults sit across from this man in a fake presidential office and pretend everything is completely normal. It is not. 52. A Russian billionaire reportedly blew $40 million on a single New Year's Eve party. Flew in performers, chefs, and guests from around the world. $40 million for one night. Most people ring in the new year with leftover pizza and a countdown on TV. And honestly, those people probably had more fun. 53. A billionaire's wife paid $1.8 million for a bathtub carved from a single block of crystal. You sit in it. With water. Like every other bathtub in existence. But this one sparkles. A garden hose and a kiddie pool accomplish the same basic goal for about 30 bucks. 54. A tech billionaire spent $10 million building a private tunnel system under his property so he never has to go outside. Not a hallway. Tunnels. Like a Bond villain. He can get from his bedroom to his office to his gym without ever seeing sunlight or another human face. $10 million to become a luxury mole. 55. A billionaire in the Middle East paid $14 million for a diamond-encrusted falconry glove. One glove. For holding a bird. $14 million to accessorize your wrist for a hobby that the falcon does not care about even slightly. The bird would land on a free stick just as happily. 56. A Silicon Valley exec built his kids a treehouse that cost over $4 million. Air conditioning, Wi-Fi, home theater, in a tree. Those kids are going to grow up, move to a city, rent a studio apartment with a broken radiator, and never emotionally recover from the downgrade. 57. Some guy bought an entire ghost town in California for $1.2 million. Every building, every street, population 0. Planned to make it a tourist destination. Nobody came. He's now the proud owner of an empty town where the only permanent resident is regret. 58. A billionaire paid over $10 million to tape a banana to a wall. That was the art. A banana, taped to a wall. Someone ate the banana at the gallery and the artist said it was fine because the concept was the art, not the fruit. 10 million and a hungry stranger ate the whole exhibit. 59. A billionaire commissioned a $100 million yacht. Used it one summer. then couldn't remember which marina he left it in. His team spent weeks calling ports across the Mediterranean, asking if anyone had seen a $100 million boat just sitting there. Most people lose their car in a parking garage. This man misplaced an entire ship. 60. A billionaire paid a famous architect over $100 million to design a house shaped like a spaceship. It leaks when it rains. $100 million for a futuristic building that can't handle basic weather. A $10 umbrella outperforms this architectural masterpiece. 61. An heiress threw a $12 million birthday party for herself at a club in the south of France. Flew in 300 guests on private jets. Booked 5-star hotels for everyone. She was turning 21. Most people celebrate that with a pitcher of cheap beer and a regrettable tattoo. This woman deployed an air fleet. 62. Picture this. You're playing basketball on a yacht. A helicopter needs to land. Game over. A Russian oligarch actually owns a yacht where the court converts into a helipad. Nobody fouls out. The chopper fouls out everyone at once. That's not recreation. That's a scheduling conflict floating on the ocean. 63. A wealthy collector dropped $3.6 million on a chess set made of gold and diamonds. Plays exactly the same as the $15 one from Walmart. The pawns don't move smarter. The queen doesn't fight harder. You're just losing at chess in a significantly more expensive way. 64. A tech mogul reportedly had fresh sushi flown daily on a private jet from Tokyo to his California estate. Daily. A round trip across the Pacific for lunch. His meal plan has a bigger carbon footprint than some entire countries. But at least the tuna was never frozen. 65. A billionaire paid $30,000 a month for a personal feng shui consultant. Not an interior designer, a feng shui master. This man repositions $50,000 furniture based on spiritual energy flow. His couch has been in 9 different spots this year. The couch is exhausted. The energy has not improved. The consultant is thriving. 66. A billionaire paid $12.5 million for a photograph of a river in black and white. You could take a photo of a river right now on your phone for free. But this one was taken by the right person at the right time, and apparently that makes it worth more than a whole neighborhood. 67. A sports team owner dropped $400 million renovating a stadium, then moved the team to a different city 2 years later. $400 million in upgrades. Then he just left. That building is now a $400 million monument to a team that ghosted an entire city like a bad first date. 68. There's a billionaire who pays an astrologer over $200,000 a year. Not a financial advisor, an astrologer. Multi-billion-dollar decisions based on what Mercury is doing. Mercury is a planet. It does not know this man exists. It has no opinion on his stock portfolio. 69. A tech founder commissioned a 30-foot bronze statue of himself for his company lobby. 30 feet of his own face. Employees walk past a 3-story version of their boss every morning. That's not leadership inspiration. That's a psychological experiment no one consented to. 70. A billionaire's wife spent $4 million on plastic surgery to look more like a wild cat. She succeeded. She now looks genuinely terrifying. $4 million to voluntarily ruin her own face. Somewhere a plastic surgeon cashed that check and asked 0 follow-up questions. 71. A Russian billionaire paid $95 million for a Jackson Pollock painting. Random paint splattered on a canvas. Every toddler in every daycare in America does this daily. The difference is nobody's paying $95 million for what's hanging on their refrigerator door. 72. A billionaire in the UAE installed a gold staircase in his mansion. Every step, covered in gold, 2 floors. That's a lot of precious metal for something whose only job is going up. Stairs don't need to be gold to work. Gravity doesn't charge extra for luxury materials. And yet here we are. 73. There's a service charging $150,000 to organize a billionaire's closet. Not build it. Organize it. Fold shirts. Arrange shoes by color. $150,000 for a task the rest of humanity does in 20 minutes on a Sunday while half watching Netflix. 74. A hedge fund manager bought a private island, then discovered it had no fresh water source. Had to spend another $20 million building a desalination plant. He bought an island without checking if it had water. That's like buying a house and finding out it doesn't have a floor. 75. A billionaire's kid wrecked a $3 million Pagani 3 days after getting it as a birthday gift. 72 hours. The car survived the factory, shipping, and delivery, only to meet its end at the hands of a teenager with a trust fund. Somewhere, a dad who bought his kid a used Civic is glowing. 76. A tech mogul paid an interior designer $75 million to decorate one house. $75 million on furniture placement and throw pillow selection. You could buy a fully furnished neighborhood for that price. But the couch had to be the right couch at the right angle in the right light. $75 million of right angles. 77. Someone made a gold toilet paper roll. $1.3 million. It's 22 karat. And yes, it's technically usable. I'm not going to explain what you use toilet paper for. You know, someone bought this. Humanity reached its peak and none of us noticed. 78. A billionaire dropped $30 million on a wine collection, then found out a third of the bottles were counterfeit. Fake wine. He'd been drinking the fakes for years and never noticed the difference. A $10 million tongue apparently can't tell real grapes from fraud. 79. A wealthy investor bought a New York penthouse for $100 million, tore out every wall, hated the open layout, then rebuilt the walls exactly where they were. Millions in demolition and reconstruction to arrive at the exact same apartment. A renovation speedrun to absolutely nowhere. 80. A tech billionaire produced an $8 million documentary about his own life. Nobody watched it. It premiered mostly to his employees, who were not given the option to leave. $8 million for the world's most expensive hostage situation disguised as a film screening. 81. A wealthy heiress bought a dog collar worth $3.2 million. It has 600 diamonds. The dog scratches its neck with its foot. It rolls in the grass. It chases squirrels. It is wearing a retirement fund around its neck and has absolutely no idea. $3 million specifically so a dog can look sparkly while it licks itself. 82. A real estate billionaire built a home with a 30-car garage and owns 4 cars. 26 empty spaces just sitting there, echoing. He built a parking lot for imaginary vehicles. That garage has more unused potential than most people's gym memberships. 83. A celebrity billionaire built a soundproof nursery for her baby that cost $3 million, completely sealed. The baby screams and nobody hears it. She basically paid $3 million to build a recording studio for an infant who didn't ask for one and can't appreciate the acoustics. 84. A wealthy CEO hired someone for $80,000 a year to read the newspaper every morning and cut out only positive stories. He pays a human being to filter reality for him. 80 grand a year to be professionally lied to before breakfast. That's not news curation. That's a paid delusion. 85. A billionaire commissioned a diamond-encrusted smartphone worth $15 million. It does the same things your phone does. Calls, texts, apps, $15 million, and it still drops calls in elevators, still cracks if you sit on it wrong, and still needs charging by 3 p.m. 86. There's a billionaire who pays a sleep coach $80,000 a year to literally watch him sleep and optimize his rest patterns. A stranger observing you unconscious every night. That's not a wellness strategy. That's a situation most people would describe to a police officer. 87. A billionaire hired a company to cloud seed the sky so it wouldn't rain at his wedding. Cost him $150,000. It rained anyway. He literally tried to bribe the atmosphere. The atmosphere took the money, laughed, and soaked the bride. 88. A wealthy collector paid $1.5 million for a single penny. A 1943 copper penny. Face value, 1 cent. He paid 150 million times what it's worth at a bank. That is mathematically the worst return on investment a human being has ever voluntarily accepted. 89. A billionaire ordered a custom perfume for $200,000 a bottle. The bottle is crystal and diamonds. The scent washes off in the shower. Every single evening, this man rinses 200 grand worth of fragrance straight down the drain and presumably feels nothing. 90. Someone bought a crystal grand piano for $600,000. Here's the thing. It sounds worse than a wooden one. Wood resonates better. He paid $500,000 extra for an instrument that looks prettier but plays uglier. Form over function at its most expensive. 91. A billionaire paid $4.5 million for a pair of pistols made from a 4.5 billion-year-old meteorite. Space guns. They actually work. But if you fire them, you might crack the ancient extraterrestrial metal. You own a weapon you're too afraid to shoot, the ultimate useless object. 92. A billionaire spent $1 million on a fishing lure made of gold and rubies. If the line snaps, a fish swims away with $1 million necklace on its lip. No base on Earth is worth that gamble. The fish absolutely does not care about the carat count. 93. A wealthy heiress pays someone $60,000 a year to warm up her bed before she gets in it. A human bed warmer. This person's literal job is to lie in someone else's sheets and leave. That is 18th century royalty behavior happening in the 21st century with direct deposit. 94. A billionaire bought a rare comic book for $3.2 million. Action Comics #1, Superman's debut. He locked it in a vault. Nobody reads it. Superman, the symbol of hope and heroism, is trapped in permanent darkness. Clark Kent would be furious. 95. A Russian student covered her Mercedes in 1 million Swarovski crystals. Cost over $1 million. It was so heavy the car could barely move. It's not a vehicle anymore. It's a very expensive, immobile disco ball that blocks traffic. She paid $1 million to turn a German sports car into a paperweight. 96. A billionaire had a private jet fly his forgotten iPhone from New York to Los Angeles. Solo. The phone had its own flight. He could have bought a new phone, a new number, and a new identity for less, but he wanted his phone, specifically his phone. With presumably very important Candy Crush scores. 97. A wealthy CEO spent $100 million on a political campaign. Ran for governor, got 4% of the vote. That's roughly $200 per individual vote received. $100 million to be told absolutely not by an entire state in the most public and humiliating way possible. 98. There's a penthouse in Monaco that sold for $335 million. In Monaco, a country smaller than Central Park, you're paying $335 million to live in a place so tiny you can accidentally jog into a different nation. One wrong turn on your morning run, and you've committed an international border crossing. 99. A Chinese billionaire spent $200 million building a full-scale replica of the White House in China. Columns, lawn, everything. He holds business meetings in it. Visitors show up thinking they're meeting a president and instead meet a man with a very specific fantasy and a construction budget. 100. A billionaire bought a $70 million island in the Bahamas, then discovered it was infested with sandflies so aggressive you can't go outside without being eaten alive. $70 million for what is essentially a luxury prison surrounded by tiny vampires with wings. 101. And to close this out, a billionaire paid $2 million for a one-of-a-kind Wu-Tang Clan album. Never got to enjoy it. The government seized it because he turned out to be a convicted fraudster. He bought the rarest album in hip-hop history and went to prison before he could memorize a single lyric. And honestly, that might be the most perfectly stupid ending to this list. Every billionaire on this list wasted millions on pure garbage, and they're all still richer than everyone watching this combined. So honestly, who's dumber? Them for buying this stuff, or us for going to work tomorrow?
Let us know what you think in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this, make sure to like and subscribe.